too much time to catch up on my backlog.
What you roll with Audible?
I really don't. I prefer the printed books.
But it gives you that ability to hear the, so you don't have to be sitting down and reading. To like in the car.
No, that's true. You know what the problem is? I find I have a lot of trouble on the concentration side. Like I'll just wind up doing something on my phone.
Like Candy Crush?
Yeah, more like checking my email, looking at GitHub issues. It's like the constant worry is like, what's going on in the organization, and can I stop something bad from happening?
Okay, Batman. So what do you think of Slack? I was reading an article the other day. This guy was talking about how it's connected us like never before, but it's stressing out a lot of engineers and creating a lot of productivity issues with the on-demand access to everyone.
Yeah, it's interesting. I had to get rid of a lot of my Slack groups, but internal Slack doesn't seem to be much of a problem. We actually use it so little. We use it to communicate, but we don't have like 250 channels. So it's, I think it hasn't been much of a distraction for people.
Very interesting.
We actually use it a lot for file transfer.
Yep, we do too. Yeah, I use that. Copying and pasting to the team and file transfer is one of the biggest uses of Slack for us.
Yeah. We don't have we have a few, channels around things like sports or music, but it's like 1 or 2 posts a day.
Ooh, what type of music you like?
Oh, I'm all over the place. Lately, I've been really into Scandinavian black metal.
All right, so for the interview, I'm going to write down Taylor Swift. Oh man, my producer guy, he just did the rock symbol. He was just talking about Scandinavian black metal like 3 days ago.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
It's because I have a lot of friends who are musicians. We actually have a Slack among all my childhood friends where we just keep each other kind of up to date, and we exchange music a lot. But a couple of them are musicians, and I think they play so much music they only get interested in really, really weird things.
Yeah, you know what? I actually have a friend, Ryan, and he big time musician. I'm a musician as well, right? But he's getting really into it. So then he started to get really off into this strange sort of funk mix stuff, and it's cool because it's technically correct, but when you listen to it, it's like, this is not enjoyable.
Yeah, half the YouTube videos on our friends music channel, it's all stuff with 5,000 views and hard to listen to.
That's a Friday night for you, right?
Exactly.
It's like talking to my wife about single responsibility principles. Tell me more. So I saw that you had this data science query engine, and right when I saw that, I was so excited to talk to this guy, because being able to collect all that sensor data and filter through it rapidly, the task should not be learning how to write the complex query. The task should be going in and just getting the information you need.
That's absolutely true. That's a very succinct way to put it. We have trouble to this day, a few years in, with messaging with organizations sometimes, because a lot of them don't realize that it is a problem because they don't actually ask their data scientists.
Yeah, well, what's the conversation to have, Brendan? Hey, there's a tool that replaces your job. Should we implement it?
Yeah, right. Well, we actually tried that with data engineering teams in the embedded and IT departments, and we found they really didn't want to, implement a tool to replace their job. It was definitely, it's like they didn't even like parts of their job. That our messaging was so much about automation of a manual job that I think it scared a lot of people. But then we went and talked to data scientists, and they were like, "Oh, that's my biggest problem is IT has this terrible system they implemented to store the data. They give me like a weekly dump of SQL Server data."
Right. So you find
or they have like an internal API on S3 buckets, and we have to parse it all ourselves. So we have shadow infrastructure in the cloud.
Yeah. And no docs, by the way. You can just get it off the HTTP request. You can just guess and check. Right. You just look at the logs, figure it out.
No docs. Yeah, I think nobody really, I think people have, in most industries, come to realize the value of their data for future success as a business, but it's hard kind of crossing that chasm between that realization and saying, like, we're going to take specific steps to improve our business processes using data or predict and prevent failure. It's such a mental leap for them that there's a lot of education involved.
Yeah. So have you tried the messaging of we're taking care of the boring stuff so you can build cooler stuff on top of it?
We definitely have. And it definitely speaks to data scientists. I think it's a good kind of messaging for data scientists. For business owners, we're finding that they're most concerned about failure, not about boring stuff.
Failure and how?
Most data, failure of data science projects. So they're worried if they hire a data science team to do this big, an initiative around becoming data driven, that initiative will fail because they're not prepared for it, and therefore they will have wasted a lot of time and money.
Yeah, so then that becomes a sales thing, right? So now it's up to you
to say,
yeah, now it's like you have to say, look, you didn't get to where you are by being scared to try new things. You got to where you are by expanding and trying new things and growing. This is not the time to, recoil back and be scared of something new. This is the time to say, hey, there's something new. This is an opportunity. We have to try it, or our competitors are going to pass us by. This is something that needs to be done.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, we found the best positioning to be that we make enterprises data science ready.
Oh, there you go.
And basically, like the idea that we, just by implementing us as a repository for all of their sensors and metric data, that they drastically reduce the risk and can hire a data science team without fear that they won't even be able to get started.
Oh, so you're selling. I love it. So that's a brilliant way to position the product, right? You could amplify their fears now. Dude, you're gonna fail. You're gonna fail if you don't train, man. You need a training program. This is what we do. Here you go.
I know all our slide decks are about fear now.
Media company. Oh man. All right. So this is what you're most excited about right now? This data science query engine, is that where you're spending most of your day?
Yeah, so it definitely is. I mean, I think it's a little higher level than that. That's a means to an end. But I've spent the past 10 years, going between research and industry in industrial machine learning, and there's this, I think, general concept that has had a lot of different names over the years. From complex event processing to digital twin to sensor fusion, that really encapsulates the kind of value that can be created with sensor-driven automation. And enabling that in the future is really where we're trying to put all of our efforts in. So even looking at the R&D efforts of data scientists, that's a stepping stone to enabling full, autonomy, both in the factory or in city optimization or in logistics networks.
That sounds awesome. I'm like geeking out over here. I'm like listening to you talk about this while looking at your like site about all the like the example code of like turbine equals false if weather's cloudy. I'm like, oh man, why does this make me so happy?
It's funny. I started out actually doing this in research for government applications, where we would have telecommunications data and a bunch of other kinds of data, and we would have to synthesize all of that into intelligence that could be used to essentially prevent disasters, usually regarding existential threats in foreign countries. And the amount of data that needed to be synthesized and run or put into the simulations in the supercomputer clusters was just so massive. It changed my outlook on what a really world-changing problem is to solve. And I went from thinking about peer-to-peer file sharing all of the time and how to do that better to like, we can solve massive problems if we can better combine different models, different sensor data, different intelligence to actually be better at predicting the future, and effectively in doing that reduce the dimensionality to increase the fidelity of our predictions. And so I've sort of, for the past 10 years, it's become my kind of mission.
So are you working, it's like a lot of the companies, when cloud came out, everybody got all the marketing departments went crazy, right? Cloud, we're going to say everything, the cloud. And then you get the machine learning and AI and everyone's all pumped up about that. Well, I've seen a lot of the IoT and like the enterprise stuff with IBM, some different companies like that. They're like, we're the IoT cloud. How do you guys, like, how do you see that?
It's for us, it's actually useful because it's a very partner driven environment, and all of those IoT cloud solutions are really focused around asset management and connectivity. So they actually don't have a very good story for how you go from raw data to actionable insight. And so we actually utilize all of that marketing they put out there to figure out who to go after for partner relationships.
Do you have a partnership with IBM?
No, not IBM.
Oh, I'm friends with one of their people that does this at IBM's IoT cloud division, if you want me to introduce you.
That'd be cool. That's in Germany, right?
I am not sure, but I talked to her on LinkedIn. Like I was commenting one day on like the mayor or the chief technology officer of New York City, right? And I was like, hey, what's up? We were just talking about some geeky thing, right? And we're going back and forth, and I click on his name. I'm like, oh, dude, he's like the CTO of New York City. That's kind of cool. We should have him on the show. So then this other girl chimed in to our conversation, and I was like, oh, who's this? And she was like some head of something and the IBM IoT. So I said, oh, she looks really cool. I was reading about her past. I was like, she's really smart. So I said, hey, you want to do a 15-minute call? And so we jumped on a call, and I was talking to her, and she was like really sharp, and they do all sorts of stuff with it's like a small team, like Alexa and all these teams, they're like not as big as you think. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually kind of amazing how small the teams in practice are around what are big marketing initiatives.
Right? Like we talked to the Microsoft team that does their devices, like their HoloLens and their Cortanas and everything like that. Super smart. Yeah. And they transmit information and they move really fast. And I'm just like, it's cool to interact with them. Well, because
I think it's actually go ahead.
Oh, sorry. There was just a little delay in the call. No, it's just that I previously had been interacting with companies where I just talk directly to the CTO, right? Or I talk directly to the like the owner, right? And because it's usually like startup or mid-level. But then when I started working with these really large organizations, I saw how they they kind of quarantine their little projects, but there's also communication between them into these. Essentially, it looks like a distributed cluster. And then I thought to myself, I'm like, this is so smart, right? Because it looks exactly like how if you were to make a visual representation of an application I wrote. It's like, I guess this is the way to scale, like law of Demeter style, right? Like it's smart. So
I think it's totally true. And if you look at kind of some of the classic management literature, there's really like only so many people that you can manage leading a particular product. And I think the successful projects that we see are really small and focused because of that, and they've externalized all of the functions that are not core to what their actual process is.
exactly. It's like when you're watching the Steve Jobs movie, the people in the room actually making the core device, there's like there's like 5, 6.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I want to know about, you've got Spanish word for size is what?
For size?
Yeah, Talla. Did you not know that?
Is that true?
Yeah, dude.
I did not know that.
Oh man, I'm sorry. I thought you had this like whole sweet story about like size and like teamwork and like knowledge base and like that's why you called it Talla. I was giving you the setup, buddy.
Oh man, so that's actually funny. It's kind of funny because I see no connection to Talla in that. You know what it is? So I just assume everything's made up because when we named Sentenai, we spent like 3 weeks looking for a .com that was pronounceable, and so we were just making up word after word. So if somebody has the .com, I just assume they made it up now.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. So that's the story of Talla.
Well, Talla is actually an interesting story because Talla is it's kind of the story of what could be right and what is wrong with the investor ecosystem in Boston. I've been here for quite a while, and I co-founded the venture fund Hyperplane because it's such a hard thing to raise capital in this city to solve hard problems where you're effectively doing kind of a moonshot effort. And we met Talla's founder and CEO Rob May kind of in the process in a co-working space when he was starting up, and he was just exiting his previous company that had just been acquired. And he was so much like the founders we wanted to bet on that we just essentially, right there made the decision that we're, after like 2 meetings, we're going to bet on this guy. None of this classic Boston stuff about needing a business plan or a use of proceeds. We're just going to, make the bet right then. And we had actually a lot of success in our first fund making bets like that. And I wish more venture funds in Boston would kind of be more risk taking like in the Valley.
Well, that's one of the reasons, that's one of the excuses to actually have capital like that. If you have a business that's a straightforward, here's your customer, if you provide the solution, they will buy it, then you can just go directly to that person and get them to jump on board your project and sell them, and then use that cash to actually produce your product. And you can essentially grow without a huge capital injection or possibly no capital at all. But when you're doing something like science, or when you're doing something that's like crazy moonshot, historically, that's when you go get the capital.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like investment firms, I think, become more conservative over time. As they grow, as they have more successes, more wins, they don't want to have a loss because they may not raise another fund after that. So I think they've stagnated.
Yeah, it's like the attorney that doesn't want to take the case because he wants his or her 99% win rate,
I think it's exactly the same thing.
Yeah. So you're actually in...
That's also... Oh, saying that's also why many funds move upstream as well as they grow. They'll start investing Bs or Cs because they don't want to invest in riskier deals anymore.
Ooh, valid point. Are you actually in Massachusetts?
I am.
Ooh, nice. So you're on premise with your whole team?
Yes, I am.
Ooh, and then that's working out pretty well, right?
It is. It works out amazingly well for us. It to the point where we were looking at hiring some remote workers, and our employees asked us, our engineers specifically asked us not to, that they prefer working face to face, whiteboarding, doing all of that.
The amount of time you save in the communication of being in the same room as the person when you're communicating an idea, especially when you're doing something that's moonshot style or hasn't been done, it is in like so valuable. You save so much time by having everyone there.
I think that's right, and it matches kind of my experience. And there was a time when I lived in Boston and commuted to Connecticut to do distributed sensor networks research at Yale. And my experience was always that, you know, despite working harder on my remote days, I would get a heck of a lot more done on my on-site days.
Absolutely. So you've been advising startups recently?
Yeah, so after the so I was part of a research lab at Yale, and we spun out a couple companies from that lab. One of them got acquired, and as soon as we got acquired, we were acquired by this basically this energy company it became quite a 9 to 5 job post acquisition. So I started mentoring startups at the Harvard Innovation Lab and at various places like TechStars and Lean Startup Machine and such. Basically as a way to pass the time. And I've tried to continue that, especially in I teach entrepreneurship classes to students who are interested in entrepreneurship because in the late 90s, I started my first internet business, and there was really no support for a teenager trying to start a business of that kind back then. And so I've always felt strongly about giving back, because it's not impossible for a teenager to create a good online business or software product. It's just that the material, the information, and insight hasn't been out there. So the nonprofit that I teach for is very focused on enabling people to get started with entrepreneurship, earlier in their lives.
I love it. I was starting when I was 13 years old, and it was incredibly difficult. I was so happy. I'm early 30s. I was so happy when PayPal came out because I could do business online.
Me too.
I was like, thank you,
PayPal
Elon.
was a big one. Yep.
Have you seen his flamethrower?
I have, and I was very tempted to buy one, but my wife wants to buy a house, so I think I'll be putting away everything towards down payments rather than a $500 torch.
Well, we've got one going on right now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you want to come shoot it?
I'd love to.
All right. Well, we're gonna be in your area, in like the Boston area, in a few months here. We have our world tour going on. Have you heard about that?
No, I haven't.
Did you see the Intel drone swarm?
Oh yeah, I did.
Yeah. So it's a 90-minute event. It's called the Geek Night Out. And the way the show opens, it's a drone swarm choreographed with a live DJ. And so the drones are moving to the music and doing crazy things. And there's a giant media screen behind it. And then there's this mother drone flying around the crowd, shooting everyone's faces onto the media screen. And then that's like a 10-minute intro, right? And then I come out on stage and I introduce the event. And then what happens is one of the audience members gets to go outside, like we do a little drawing winning thing. They get to go outside, and the mother drone with the 4K camera follows them outside, and they get to shoot the Elon Musk like flamethrower. and then that's being broadcast back into the audience that's watching. And then after that, what happens is we do an interview with like a local CTO or like a local technology like geek, like you, right? Like we have you come up and we'll do like a quick 5-10 minute interview to kind of show the next generation, the college students, so it's going to be held at universities, to show them, you know, what it's like and kind of bring some value to them so they can have some accurate representations of like what to expect in the real world in this technology and entrepreneurship thing, not like the whole Snapchat/Instagram highlight reel, right? Where they get all depressed because that's not reality. So we bring that value to them.
Yep.
And then we will have next gen super robots come on stage. So like think of like the Cassie, the bipedal robot, or the Boston Dynamics Spot, you know, or one of their other ones, which would be super cool. And then we do like we geek out over the super robots and like maybe try to push them over and watch them get their balance. And then we do a drone exit finale. And that's the 90-minute high energy Geek Night Out that we're doing a world tour, 16 cities.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. Last year, I had the opportunity to speak at a conference and have the spot kind of come out right after, and it was pretty cool to actually see in person.
Yes, isn't that exciting?
It really was. Yeah, gave me a few Terminator vibes.
So you want to come out, and like we need local connections in all the areas that we're setting up in to get, you know, the universities, to find the spot where we're going to put it, and to kind of coordinate. So we've reached out to all the EDCs.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I could probably do a lot to help. I know a lot of the university entrepreneurship organizations because. With our venture fund, we maintain connections to them and a lot of CTOs in the area. So let me know how I can help, and I can definitely help out.
Yeah, have you ever seen the Monster Jam, or with the monster trucks?
Well, I've seen the ads for it, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah. So there's this company, and they own like Disney on Ice. They do the Monster Jam. They do the motocross, like all the motocross races, and they are huge. They hold events like every week in 68 countries across the world, and they're pretty much like the only company that does it. Massive, right? And guess what? Their world headquarters happens to be 10 minutes from where I live.
Wow, seriously?
Yeah, so I went over there.
That actually makes sense.
Right? So I went over there and I asked them, I got to meet like their executive team. That's where I was this morning. And I was like, this is what we're doing. They thought it was unbelievable. And I said, well, we need your help for logistics because you guys know how to move stuff around this pale blue dot way better than we do. And you guys move like hundreds of monster trucks internationally, like Japan, China, like America. Like you're constantly moving stuff. Every single day there's a show in a different part of the world that they do across 35 different brands. And I said, we need your help. And they're like, we like you, we're in. And I'm like, that was too easy. Thank you.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So now we're putting the whole event out to bid to like Microsoft and Amazon. And we actually talked to Microsoft's mixed reality division, and they have this council that gets together. And so they're going to meet Monday to see if it's something that they want to do. But the idea is that we're going to get them to fund the world tour. So it's presented by Microsoft or GE or Coke or Chick-fil-A or Boeing or Intel or Space, so on. We're going to find one of these brands to have it sponsored by. And then that way it's a free event for the students and the next generation of technologists. And then everybody kind of wins.
That's great.
Yeah. So, yeah, if you have any ideas of other than what you've said, like we'd love to incorporate them. And it sounds like you're super connected in your local market with the entrepreneurship organizations and stuff. So that'd be real exciting when we come there to have you involved with that.
Yeah. When are you scheduled to be in Boston for it?
Yes, so we're announcing all the dates on March 31st. So the bidding's between March 5th and March 31st. And we yep, really excited about it. But we know that the first we know that it's kicking off at the end of May. So it's going to run for a year from May to May, right? and it's kicking off, and we're going to start in our hometown area, right? Our nearest neighboring city, which is like Tampa, because that's where we have the most relationships. And then we're going to run it around run it up the East Coast and then around the world. And we're really, really pumped about it here in the office.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I'll have you on stage and we'll do it live, man. We'll do like a 15-minute thing, have you on stage. Yeah.
Sounds great.
Awesome. So what do you really like on your day-to-day when you're working on Sentenai? How do you pronounce it again? I'm sorry.
Sentenai. Yeah, it's funny. We made up the word, but then we found out it's an Italian last name.
Oh, Italian. Sentenai. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you really excited about, like right now, today? Like, what are you pumped up about that's happening at the organization?
You know, I think there's two things. We just hired our first sales director, and it's really changing how we think about product marketing and enterprise sales. And the fact that it's not the founders that are out there doing a lot of the sales now, or that we're taking a back seat and letting an expert drive. It's really exciting to see that evolution in the organization. So that's nice. And then the second thing is, I'm really excited about the challenge of building a highly skilled functional programming team around distributed systems and machine learning, because it's an area that it's always tough to recruit functional programming people because there's a lot fewer of them, and it's always tough to recruit people who are experts in distributed databases or machine learning. And so the challenge of actually combining that and kind of having people lean on each other's strengths, because there's no unicorn out there who's an expert in all of it, it's a really interesting one, and it's exciting to kind of build a small team that's highly focused.
So how are you filling your pipeline with potential candidates? Like, how do you keep people in front of you, and how do you make the decision about who to pull on?
Yeah, so one thing that we do is we get everybody on the team involved. It's sort of recruit your own coworkers kind of thing, and yeah, everybody's excited about what we do. Practically all of our engineers actually moved to Boston to join the team. So when they're not afraid to go and recruit people from elsewhere. But we also spend a lot of time. I think there are specific areas where in recruiting you can kind of have a high impact for less work, and I would say the angel list recruiting has been a godsend for that, because there's a lot less noise than all the other job boards and job postings. You don't get you don't put an ad saying specific technology required and get 50 people who have 5 years of enterprise Java experience that has nothing to do with what you posted applying. And so that's been a huge time saver. But the other thing is, we go where the functional programmers are. So we go to the meetups, we go to conferences, we think about sending the whole team to Strange Loop. We do things post specifically where we find functional programmers hang out. And we've even sponsored podcasts that we knew functional programmers would listen to, and at least one person on our team joined because he thought that meant we must be a legit company.
That's what it means, though.
Yeah. So it's I think it's it's such an ensemble of methods that you have to employ when there are just relatively fewer people out there. But the baseline of how experienced and how knowledgeable the candidates we get is way above my last company, when we were mainly trying to recruit general Python engineers, and having to kind of wade through a bunch of people who barely knew Python, but knew it enough to say they'd apply for it in a job.
Yeah, that's you want people that like know it.
Yeah, that's absolutely it. So we found our magic formula is just say that we're doing distributed databases, machine learning, and Haskell, and people just kind of apply.
You ever think about recruiting authors of books on the subject?
We actually, her first employee was an author. So we thought about that early, like recruit people who lead meetups. Like one of our engineers is co-organizer of the local Elm meetup. So it helps kind of getting a pipeline. We don't hire that fast because we're a believer in small teams, but that does give us the opportunity to be really picky about who we hire.
So I hire fast, but on a come hang out with us for a week or two and see how it goes basis, right? Like I want people to come hang out and see how they work, because you can't tell, even if you have 3 interviews for an hour, you really can't tell know that person the same way you can as if you just work with them in the office for a week.
Oh yeah, especially if you're trying to do like whiteboarding sessions or code interviews. It's just hard. And I think the challenge when it comes to these more niche skill sets is that you really wind up having to fly a lot of people into the office to spend a day. And we've done that, but with a number of people, but we've had one of our engineers actually asked us if he could just come try working with us for, I think it was 3 weeks that he wanted to come, and we thought, why not pay for it? So it actually, I think it's worked well to have people come hang out, and we've gotten a much better sense than in technical interviews.
Yeah, well, you get the person that really wants to be there too, especially if you're getting people calling you up saying, "Hey, I just want to come work for you for like 3 weeks. I just want to show you what I can do." Man, when I get that call, like I'm going to be so happy, right? Like I'm putting it out there because those people aren't hungry. I get people that won't even show up for job interviews. I'm like, oh man, come on, you know.
Wow, I haven't had that one happen, but I can imagine.
Not on the
I've
programming
definitely
side.
gotten a lot of people.
Sorry.
Oh yeah. Not on the programming side.
Yeah,
Okay.
not on the programming side.
Yeah. Oh yeah, we've definitely had sales interviews with people blowing us off. So
yeah. Yep.
yeah. So someday I hope to have kind of built a recruiting process that is self-sustaining, so that I'm not like at the forefront of it every day spending an hour on it. But I still feel like we're at that stage where every new person changes the culture in the company enough that we are trying to be careful, also really focus on having a diverse set of viewpoints in the company. It's so easy to hire a bunch of people that it's like, well, they're like me, so I know they're going to do well.
Well, I'm always trying to find my clones.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I did at first. And now we've been trying to find people, like I would say find people who make me slightly uncomfortable from a like skill set standpoint. Like they're either taking on skills that I feel uncomfortable with and they've like embraced learning those skills in addition to programming, or they are experts in something that I actually dislike or maybe discount the importance of, but intuitively or maybe not intuitively, but just in theory, it's important even if I hate it.
Yeah, it's always good to find that person that like just knows a little bit more than you too.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely. That's the like the one constant interview question that I always try to, and even in a first call, try to find that one thing that somebody, especially it's something in relation to what we do, because I have some level of expertise in all of the areas. that we work in. I want them to like go in and that part where I think they must know the most, like demonstrate how much more they know than me.
Yeah, that's how you go through that dance of validating an expert.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we try to not have too much overlap in expertise. Like there's a general baseline we look for, but we have people with 20 years of experience on kind of like being deep in the ops community, and people who are category theory experts and mathematicians, and getting those expertises together has yielded for us in practice. I don't know if we even really realized it at the time, but it's yielded some amazing insight of like cross field pollination.
And how big is the team currently?
So we're 12 people right now.
And how many of those are engineers?
All but 3. So it's yeah. and we have one person who doesn't code.
Who's that?
Our director of sales.
All right, well that could slide, because the people that bring money in, they don't have to necessarily code.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because our director of sales actually has experience in selling technology products that are kind of like ours. Maybe not the same kind of thing, but similar in complexity to sell into an IT organization or into a business unit, and so that's been great. And the rest of us, even my co-founder, our CEO. He was an MIT CS major, and he kind of went out of CS into venture, and went kind of that route with his life. So he doesn't code much anymore. But I always laugh at the fact that literally everybody on our team has a CS or CS-like degree, except for our sales director.
So I have a question. I've got to know this one. If Elon Musk like text you today, right? It's like, hey, Brendan, like come over to my house and hang out. The first question is, would you go?
Yes.
All right. Now you're at his house. You're hanging out with Elon Musk. You asked to shoot the flamethrower. He says no. Sorry about that. So then you bring your Boston Dynamics spot on him, and you 6 spot on him, right? No, but he's got a time machine, right? And you get to go into the time machine and talk to yourself 10 years ago and give yourself one piece of advice. What would it be?
Oh man, if I had to give myself, so 10 years ago, it would be, it would be not doing research is the right decision. Entrepreneurship is the right thing. And be very, very, very careful about which projects you work on and companies you join. Optimize for how quickly you can personally learn, not for safety or for personal relationships.
I love it, man. That's great advice. Your previous self thanks you, by the way.
It took me way too long to learn that, but I think it's an important lesson, and I see it in entrepreneurs, or back when I was doing venture full time, I saw it in a lot of entrepreneurs that they were not afraid to kind of take those risks and really put themselves out there as a first-time entrepreneur, and those were always the ones that I wanted to bet on, and the ones who I think in the end have been the ones who have been driven to succeed.
Yeah, some people, they just have that fire in them where they just get up and go, and nothing in the world could possibly slow them down.
Yeah, my filter now is, do I want to, or would I ever bet against you?
Oh my God, dude, let's get some, you need some Tony Robbins, Brendan. We'll get some positive in your life, my friend. I'll tell you what, you'll shoot the flamethrower.
I like survivorship. I think I think there's some kind of irrational exuberance around around fundraising and fundraising as a startup milestone, and I think that it's the companies and the founders who actually are kind of shaped by the kinds of ordeals they have to go through, and they don't have that easy path when they're not like fresh out of school from a top university, and somebody hands them $3 or $4 million and says go build something cool. It's the opposite. The people that I've met who've been people who are starting companies after 5 or 6 different 5 or 6 different tours of duty in that space, who have really interesting life experiences. One of my co-founders of my of the venture fund that I co-founded, he had come to America with nothing for medical treatment, and he built his whole life up from scratch from that. And those people have such an interesting outlook. I can never fully relate to it myself, but they just have such an interesting outlook on life, and they've learned positivity. I think that to me, that's what makes them survive when other people kind of decide to give up and go join Google.
Yeah. So when I was looking back a lot about when I did this book, I had the editor kind of like interview me, asking me questions while we were finishing the book up. And they started asking some like really like deep personal stuff because they like wanted to dig in for some reason. I'm like, all right. So they were asking me like, oh, like why? Because like to me, I'm me, right? But they're asking like, why don't you stop? Like, what makes you keep going? Like, why are you the way you are? And I'm like, dude, I don't know. And so they were asking me questions about like childhood, and then they the ultimate thing that they came to was when I was like 13, I got hit by a car and I was in a wheelchair for a year, and I had to learn how to walk again. And then halfway through my rehab, I fell and re-broke my legs and had to learn how to walk like all over again. And that was like this big, long 2-3 year chunk of my life. And then they were like, well, now you have the hips and legs of an 80-year-old woman, and like, you're not going to be able to do sports. And then I ended up joining the football team. Right. And then like, I just kept, pushing forward. And then I'm like, you know what, maybe that's where I learned how to be positive.
Yeah. That's pretty inspirational to make it through that. I can't imagine it.
Well, I mean, like, it's just like, you can either, it sounds like cool, but like when you're sitting there in the wheelchair, like you just don't want to be there. You're like, what do I have to do? Like, what do I have to do? How do I get up and not be in this thing? Like, where's the path? Because you get down about it a little bit. I actually ended up getting really overweight. I blew up to 300 pounds. So I was like in the wheelchair, broken legs, got depressed, got really, really overweight. And then like, I'm in shape now, but it was like this whole like mess of a decade for me. And then I'm like, every single day, I'm just like, at least I'm not 300 pounds in a wheelchair, can't walk anymore.
That sounds like quite something to have for a while.
It's like my flight's late, but I can walk. Yes, I win.
So. That's back. It's funny. I think it's that thing that lets you kind of go that extra mile. I have a similar what you were saying about the flight's late. Once I woke up I was in college. I left college for a semester to start a software company, and at that time, Y Combinator had just launched, and I was invited to a private reception in Cambridge, and I missed the flight because I had the flu, and I literally made it out later that day to make it to the reception that night because I was so determined to get there.
And you made it happen, man.
I think if I hadn't gone through like all the ordeals leading up to that, of like how hard it was to start start a company and kind of like learn entrepreneurship from scratch. I don't think I ever would have kind of used that experience to make it, despite probably getting half the people on the plane sick.
You're like a little terrorist, Brendan.
Yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, oh, what was I doing to other people?
The important thing is you made your Y Combinator. Oh my goodness. Oh man, we'll edit that out. I just got an email from your PR person. They say, edit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny because I got to meet Steve Wozniak at that event. So it was like,
oh yes,
every moment was worth it.
And he remembers you as the jerk that got him sick.
Yeah, right.
Oh, Brendan. So it was cool meeting Steve Wozniak, the Woz.
It was. I don't. It's funny, that night is a total blur. I got into a long discussion with somebody. I think one of the founders of AbbeyWord, the Linux like word competitor. But I sort of like, that's what I remember from the night, because I had a fever you were like after that. And, oh my God, yeah, that night I had to go outside the city to like crash at a friend's place in his apartment near his campus, and I was like out of it for the next 2 days.
You're just stumbling around the city. Everyone thinks you're drunk, but you're just sick.
Oh yeah. And there was no Uber back then.
Oh no! All of a sudden, I'm gonna see Brendan like writing Spot by like Boston Dynamics. Half drunk. Oh my god! There's the use for them, by the way. Little Ubers. They can just ride the dogs on, put little saddles on them.
Now, that's something I could get behind. They're almost big enough for that. I have a friend who has a robotics company here. They make this robot that carries cargo for you, rolls behind you, called Gita. And yeah, and it's funny because it's big enough that I always want to put like a saddle on it and ride it.
All right, wait. Who's this guy? Who's this friend or girl?
Her name is Sasha. And it's Piaggio Fast Forward that makes it.
All right, let's see if we can get one on stage when we're in Boston, and I'll put a saddle on it. Oh, we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, they actually might be up for it. They do a lot of that kind of press, not press, but like event outreach kind of things. Just get the word out, because they have like an actual personal robot for people to buy.
Oh, that's amazing. I didn't even know about it.
Yeah, it's let me see if I can paste into the window a link to a video that she had. Let's see, because the thing is, it like the demos they have are literally it like carrying your shopping with you. It has this auto follow technology. You put like a little thing in your pocket and it follows you around with obstacle avoidance.
Oh my goodness, I'm in love.
Let's see, media. Of course, it's an actual media page. This is the actual website though.
Gita. Oh man, introducing Gita. Oh wow, hold on a second. A lot of up close shots. Give me the big picture. Oh,
I know. Give the big picture. The problem is a lot of the videos on LinkedIn, I don't actually know how to share them out of LinkedIn.
You can't really at all.
Yeah, and so she had a video she posted. There's this very kind of well-known bartender in Boston that a lot of the startup community knows well, and he used one of these to propose to his girlfriend. So they had a video of their first Gita proposal.
I love this guy. Oh man, the lights on it. This is coming on stage with us for sure. For sure.
It is honestly. It's the company is Italian. They make the scooters, and this is their robotics division that they put in Boston, and so it's got Italian styling, and I think that kind of makes all the difference in the world. Yeah,
I'm looking at it right. You know what? It does feel very Italian style. It's that plastic stuff, that like hard, the coating of it reminds me of like the little Italian cars.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that thing is so smart. Can it do stairs though? Can it do stairs?
I don't think so.
No, it's okay. Version 2, it's coming. It's coming. Put it in the pipeline.
Yeah. I think you need bikes for stairs. Pretty much.
We have a pivotal story for it, or an epic. We have an epic for it, just as stairs.
I remember they brought one up on stage at the robotics conference I was speaking at, and they definitely used a ramp on the stairs. So
what conference was that?
Has some limitations. That was the Robo Madness put on by Xconomy.
What? That sounds amazing. Robo Madness?
Yeah, every year. Well, iRobot is nearby, and Boston Dynamics is nearby, and you've got all this. So there's so many robotics companies around here. They put this on, and they basically get a bunch of people talking about AI and robotics. And like last year, Stephen Wolfram talked, and the founder of Boston Dynamics talked, and the CTO of iRobot. So it's a pretty good conference, and they held it last year, at least at Google. So there were great facilities for it.
I gotta be calling these people, and then I was real proper English. I need to call these individuals. I'm sorry, I got excited for some reason. I need to call these people and say, I need your like iRobots, and what does iRobot produce that's really ridiculous and cool?
I mean, I think it's been normalized, right? They mainly produce the Roomba and all of its ilk. But their military robotics division split off from the company thanks to an activist investor. So now there's like another iRobot that just makes all the things like Mars rovers and like bomb diffuser robots.
Yeah, I mean, it's really difficult from like a PR standpoint when they're like, we're gonna clean your floors and kill people. It's like, it's tough.
Yeah, I had a chance at a dinner to sit next to the inventor of the Roomba, and he was like a very down-to-earth, kind of Woz-like guy. And he was telling me about his new project, and he's launched it now. I forget what it's called, but he wanted to make a robot to automatically do your gardening for you.
Oh, yeah.
And he's launched it now. So there's another company now, another like iRobot for gardening.
Oh, of course. That's amazing. All right, Roomba. We're going to get some plants on the stage and have them like help us garden. Call it grandma's best friend, right? This is amazing, dude. I want to, if I was sitting next to him, I'd be like, hey, so how'd this come about? He would be like, it's the only chore my wife gave me, so I automated it. Oh, man. Wow, Brendan, I love talking with you, dude.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, this is amazing. It's real simple the way we end. I just clicked this giant red button. And it was